Welcome to B News Town Administrator Update, and no surprise, our guest is Town Administrator John Danizio. Welcome, John.
Well, thanks for having me.
As usual, thank you for joining us. Okay, you're coming up on your first year anniversary.
Yes, May 1st will be 1 year as Town Administrator.
How would you characterize the first year?
Well, it's been great. I think it's felt like it's been 3 years, but it also feels like it went by too fast. I don't know how that's possible. It's been great because we have a great team over there. I know you got a chance to meet Patrick Lawler.
Right.
It wouldn't be as easy without him, that's for sure. So.
As it wasn't as easy for Sagarino without you, right? Okay, let's talk about the snow budget. Where did that come in? I know you flat appropriate every year for the snow, and then you are subject to the the vagaries of the climate. How did we do this year?
Well, pardon the pun, but it piled up pretty quickly. Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. We budget the same amount of money every year. It's a little nuance in Mass General Law. Chapter 44, Section 31D allows you to deficit spend a snow budget. It's the only account you're allowed to do that in. So what we do is when we plan the budget, we budget for $350,000, which has been the same number forever, and then we bake in projections to deficit about a $500,000, say, is what we use as a rolling average. Some years we come in under that. Some years, like this year, we'll be over that. So what happens is when we get over the original budget, then Brian White has to come to the select board, ask for permission to overspend the budget. So he did that at the beginning of February and was allowed to go over the budget by $800,000, which is the highest approval we've had to request since I've been here. Right. Hopefully we won't spend all of that. Hopefully we're almost done with spending that.
Yeah.
But,
well, this is New England, so there's always a March or April surprise.
Right. So it doesn't really affect our projections until until the deficit is over $500,000, because that's what we program in when we do our forecasting.
Right. Now, what was the big one? We had 20 inches of snow, did we?
Yeah, 20 inches. Two that were close to 20 inches back to back, a week apart. So right. I think Brian said the official reading for Burlington was 18 and a half, but I think there was more than 20 out there. I don't know who did the
Nothing like 1978, though. We had back-to-backs and everybody was stuck.
Right. Yeah. It was a 2015 where it snowed for 28 straight days, and we had something like 70 inches of snow. That was brutal too. Oh, and I was in municipalities then, so I felt it.
Well, I guess we can understand why old timers are moving to Florida these days.
Who can blame them?
Okay, you're coming into town meeting and budget season. How does that stack up at this point? Have you got guidelines in place, and what are some of the major issues that you'll be confronting in May?
Sure. Yeah. So we had our budget summit back in December or early January. We set the guidelines like we do every year. This year we tried to dial it back a little bit, just some of the feedback that we've been getting. So instead of the previous couple of years, it was a 4.5% guideline for town and school operating budgets, and around 8% for accommodated accounts. Right. This year we were 4.25 target for school and operating budgets, and 7.5 for accommodated. The accommodated one is kind of hard because it includes things like health insurance and debt service and special ed and trash removal. So those can be a little bit volatile. But we think we're going to be able to make that this year. We submitted the town's operating budget at just under 4%. So hopefully it'll be a good year for that.
Now, about 3.5% is already baked in for wages, which is how much? 85% of the town's budget is wages?
Yeah, if you use the whole, but it's a little less, but if you use just the operating side of the budget, which is where the salaries are, it's in the 80% range. So when you have 80% at 3.5 for a wage adjustment, plus you have folks going through steps, so as you mature in your career, you have what's called the step raise. That can eat up that.
Now, we also have retirements that affect that, buyouts, et cetera, but also reducing the grades of the replacements. Do we have a cadre of people that are going out?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we were able to even make it work this year and be lucky enough to be under 4 was because we had a significant amount, we call it turnover savings. Right. We had a significant amount of retirements this year that, everybody moves up a grade and you end up filling it with the
right. Now you got somebody going out of recreation's got 40 years in, I think. Forgive me, I forget his name. He's been there forever.
Bill Baker.
Bill Baker.
Yep.
Sorry, Bill. So I think he's got 40 years.
40 years,
hasn't
yep.
he? Wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, the police department just lost Moose Kirchner just
Kirchner,
retired,
sure.
so I saw you did it.
Yeah. When is the determination of the new deputy chief going to be done?
It'll probably be over the next month and a half, 2 months.
Right. And have you got applicants in at this point?
They haven't posted it yet, so it works its way through the...
Yeah, it's a process. Now, what about on the money side? Has free cash been certified?
Free cash certified in the fall for 27.5 million-ish, a little more than that. We did spend some money at September and January town meeting, but we're going into spring town meeting with over 20 million in free cash. We're programming to use maybe 5 or 6 million at spring town meeting. So as we have the last few years, we should be carrying over a significant amount of free cash, or not using a significant amount.
And how about stabilization? We haven't done anything, any additions to that in the last couple of years?
No, we haven't really added other than the interest we made, but yeah, we haven't made deposits into the stabilization account over the last couple of years. Just with the bigger projects at the forefront, we thought better to use some money for that.
Cash. And that's at what, 17 million at this point? Or 15 million, I think.
Stabilization is 15 million.
15. Okay, and you've got projects going on. We've got more than a hole now at the police station. Where is that in terms of the schedule? Where is that in terms of how you're funding it? I know you used some free cash initially for the design, et cetera. Where are we going on that?
So yeah, there's some real good news there. As you said, there's a big hole in the ground right beside a giant, we're calling it Union School Mountain right now, the big pile of dirt there. But the good news there is we used, that project budget was $46 million, a little more than that. We used $5 million of it to free cash to not have to borrow that, and then the bids came in very favorable, several $million below. So we're looking at probably another $5 million of cost avoidance there. So we're going to go out to bid this spring for our annual borrowing, and we're going to permanently borrow, if the numbers work out right, we're going to permanently borrow the police station now at a number around 35 million, a little less than 35 million. So that's an $11 million less than we were originally planning. So annually, that's about just over $700,000 annually that we won't spend in the operating budget. In debt service. So that's a great story. We're hoping for something similar on the Fox Hill.
Right, and what is the timing on the Fox Hill? That hasn't broken ground. Where is that in the building process?
So they had had favorable bids. The notice to proceed is working its way through the signatures. They have a contractor on board. It's going to be the same contractor that's doing the police station, actually.
Right. Oh, really?
CTA, who also did the two DPW buildings and the Marshall Simons. Right. So they're very familiar with the town. Again, there was significant cost savings or potential cost savings in the bids. So we'll have to see when the project finishes. But the notice to proceed is going out now. There'll be a little bit of work, playground work, that's going to happen during April break if we can get this paperwork done right away. But then, right after that, there'll be mobilizations and things like that. But it will start in earnest when the kids are gone.
Right. And where is Overlook in the process? That's a much smaller project. I think $2.5 million. You're going to bond for that?
Yep, a little less than that. We didn't end up bonding for Overlook because of the grant we got from the state. So we used free cash. So that's going to stay off the debt schedule.
Sure.
But that project went right straight through the winter. So if you go up there, it doesn't really, the path doesn't really look like what it looked like before. So I think they're almost out of the ground there. As you can imagine, there's quite a bit of ledge up there.
Right. Right.
So that's
well, we did
ongoing.
A story, I think, originally when they were taking the trees down and getting ready to do the project. Okay, let's go back to finances and talk about the levy limit. First, explain. Most people have no idea, myself included, what the levy limit is and how it's factored into developing the tax rate.
Sure. So the levy limit is the amount of money that a town can tax residents and commercial. So that's the total you can tax. And why is that important? Because taxes are one of the three big buckets that revenue buckets that we get to fund our operating budget. We have traditionally been under the levy limit by quite a bit. Right now, we stand at when the tax rate was set this year at just over $15 million under the levy limit. Where does that levy limit come from? It's calculated by the previous year's levy limit times 2.5%, which is Proposition 2.5, which is what everybody always talks about, and then plus whatever you had for new growth that previous year, then that sets your new levy limit.
And that's based on what the taxation rate was the previous year for each category of property?
Correct. So if there was a new building that came on, which for us, that did happen up at Blue Sky Drive, the biggest building over there was finished, so we were able to capture some new growth for that. It's a $200 million building, so that's quite a bit. So that was a big win for us.
So 18 million, that basically means we're not in any danger of needing an override in the near term.
Yeah, I think when we do our long-term planning or our 5-year forecast and things like that, we try to make sure we use conservative estimates. The biggest piece is that new growth piece I was just talking about. What we do is we use about a 1.5% new growth factor each year. So really the levy can grow at about 4%. That's the 2.5% by Proposition 2.5 plus new growth at 1.5%. But our levy has grown by more than 4% for many years now. So if you calculate that out, you do show, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years out. Now you're talking about where those two lines are going to meet, your levy limit and your the amount you need to tax. So what we like to do is make sure that we have that in any of our models. If that starts to creep back to us or ever got within 7 to 5 years, now we need to pull some levers to make sure we keep it at bay.
Now, how does values factor into that in terms of the commercial and the home ownership, the residential value? How does that factor in, perhaps, if we had a decline in one or both of those categories?
Right, so that can be a big one for the residential. It doesn't really affect how much you can tax. It's just who's going to pick up the bigger portion of the tax. So for here, we talk about the 2/3, 1/3. In town here, the values are about 2/3 residential and 1/3 commercial. But then the taxes that are levied after the classification is the opposite. It's the commercial's picking up 2/3 of the revenue, and residential's only doing 1.
Aren't we glad?
Yes, exactly. So there's also something called the tax classification shift, which is how much you can shift from a single rate, which is if you said, this is our total, this is what we need to levy, this is our total value, one divided by the other, this is our tax rate, everybody pays the same. We don't do that here, thankfully. If you live here, you're very thankful for that.
So we're $8, roughly, we're $8 on the residential side, and we're $22, $23 on the commercial side per thousand?
Yeah, so we're we're $8.69, so almost 9, and then 25, 47, so almost 26.
And I know that we've talked about this in the past, but what concerns do you have relative to the decline in the commercial values and occupancy rates?
Yeah, it keeps us up at night all the time because, like I just said, with that shift, when commercial values don't grow at the same rate as residential, or worse, commercial values start to decline at all, and residential continues to grow, again, we're still going to raise the same amount of money. It's just now the bigger burden of it is going to come from the residential side. So you'll see that tax rate go up. You'll see, those values continue to go up, which is a great thing. But now it's just the way we operate. Our level service budget traditionally has cost about $250 to $350 increase on the tax bill for the amount of services we get now. That's because we get a subsidy of about $5,000 on a single-family home from the commercial rate being so much higher.
Right.
If that starts to shift, now that average tax bill, instead of being, $250 to $3, is more like $550 to $7. Okay. So that's when now maybe keeping the same level of service might not be possible.
One of the buckets that for income is building permits. Where are we in terms of the residential? Is that continuing to be as hot as it has been over the last 3 to 4 years?
Well, we continue to make our budget, and one of the things we do when we budget for local receipts, things like building permits, we like to budget what an average year could be so that we don't over budget and then have a revenue shortfall in that area. So we budget $1.5 million for permits. Now, on good years, we can be $4 million on permits. The last couple of years have basically just made it over the budgeted amount. So, these are what we would consider the average year. So there's still permits being taken out. They make it. We're going to make the budgeted amount, but it's not going to produce a lot of free cash like normally it would when we budget for $1.5 million and bring in $3.5 million. That's $2 million in free cash right there.
Okay, the other two that are major contributors are the hotel tax and the meals tax. Those naturally were reduced during COVID. We're now 3.5, 4 years out of COVID. Have those recovered to pre-COVID levels in terms of contribution to the town's revenue coffers?
Yeah, so meals tax is as high as it's ever been here. Now, there could be multiple factors with that. It could be that the meals cost more.
That's certainly a factor.
But if you try to go out for dinner around here, there's people out there too. So,
there are. You got to get a reservation,
lunch
even
and
at the
dinner.
Escadrille for lunch.
So there's that factor. I think that's very strong and remains strong. Hotel, I'm surprised that it came back as fast. It's not all the way back, and it may never get all the way back, but it's rebounded quite nicely. We were worried that might never come back.
Right, because of Zoom and other things.
Yeah, work travel going away.
Right, going away. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd like to thank our guest, John Danizio, as always. Thank you, John.
All right.
Good luck at town meeting. I'm sure you always need it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.